Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's down here. It is I think we're Tuesday, but might be Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is. Tottenham transfer news, views and clues update. I'll be honest, guys, this one's going to be short because, first and foremost, something about my mood today is I'm not at it. Did you ever have one of those days where you wake up and the very first moment, the very first interaction that you have from after your eyes opening is a bad one, whether it's a text message that you read or an email that you opened or a conversation with someone or you bang your toe on the way to the bathroom, just something goes wrong within seconds of opening your eyes, and then from then on it's downhill the whole way. Well, I kind of feel like today's going to be one of those days. I just got a vibe that the universe's frequency and my own are a little bit out of sync. So yeah, I won't keep you long basically, because the stories that we've got today are, there's one new name, there's a lot of updates, but none of them are particularly great news. Some of them I find entirely ridiculous regarding comments from actually people that I once upon a time presumed, and I still do to a degree, presumed to be some sort of club insider. Let's start with this one. Tell me how you feel about this. James Maddison, Brian King, the ex-Tottenham scout, who went on TalkSport, he's now a TalkSport regular, often talks about the time when he was there and the deals that Levy could have done that didn't do, etc. I'm not sure if he's got like an agenda against anything at Tottenham, but he always talks about Tottenham. Anyway, he said that Tottenham's likely move for Eberechi Eze, it probably results in James Maddison being sold, or that he wouldn't be surprised to see James Maddison leave the club this summer, which, I mean, I just find a crazy thing to hear. I didn't write down his full quote, so I'm gonna be paraphrasing here, but he said basically that he started brightly. His justification for it is that he started brightly, but then he was poor for the rest of the season. And obviously, I think we all agree, ever since his injury, he came back, he hasn't really been at top form, top fitness. But I also think, and I think some of you in the comment section agree with me, that that's in no small part down to the template that emerged of how to defend against us from the opposition, where they'd give less interest, less cover to the wing forwards because they demonstrated a lack of real threat at driving at players, and that kind of compressed the back four. The midfield five would drop back, and it would all just get very cramped. And James Maddison had nowhere to move to, so he'd have to come back deep to get the ball, and then he's not really used to doing deeper, longer ball sort of stuff, super long through balls and things. So yes, he had a difficult second half of the season, but the concept of selling him, the idea of selling him, is madness to me. And Brian King is justifying it because we're going after Eberechi Eze. Now look, again, there's definitely an argument to say with regards to the purchase of Eze, £80 million, give or take, sorry, £68 million, give or take, for a player that isn't naturally the type of left winger that we probably are looking for, a direct take-on specialist, although he has shown recently that he can do it. He is naturally more of a 10 and therefore would have to compete or share minutes with James Maddison, or you put him into the 8 and let him compete with Sarr and the rest of those guys, Bentancur, etc., where you might be limiting what he can do on the ball creatively some of the time. There's definitely a conversation around the viability and where does he fit, horses for courses, but that doesn't mean that you extend that to say that James Maddison's going to be leaving the club. And I think he's obviously, I would imagine, he's obviously saying that just from his opinion. He's shooting from the hip, which is fine. But that then therefore means I'm going to be taking his words less literally in the future, because I used to think that when he was speaking from a place of kind of club insider knowledge. So we'll move on from that one. Also, sorry, last thing I forgot to mention is that James Maddison is a homegrown player, and we're struggling in that department. He's the best version of a homegrown that we have, so why would we sell him when we need more homegrown players? Eberechi Eze is a considered player, and the price target on his head is not just because he's a good player, it's because he's homegrown as well. Let's move on. Vanderson. Romano's come out and said, Mr. Romano's come out and said he can confirm that Tottenham do have interest in the player. That is true. And the price tag is 40 million. Do you remember a few days ago I said when we were first linked to him, I said he's a really good player, but at the price point, it's probably a little bit punchy for a rotational right back. You know, you need the money to go in other directions, etc. And then the next day I said, actually, don't worry, forget what I said, because apparently all of the reports today are saying it's more like £20 million, and that Emerson and Vanderson therefore are valued at the same, give or take, the same amount of money. And if you can swap one for the other, then it's a massive improvement for our system without any net outlay or very little net outlay. And to me, that results in a very, very easily justifiable trade. But according to Romano and all the sources that have, all of the stories that have followed, they're saying it's 40 million. I'm not sure if it's euros or pounds, but either way, it's twice what Emerson's going to get you. And so suddenly I'm back to my initial thought processes of, can you justify the value for money for the player? He is a good player, but I don't know. Do you go after an Archie Gray instead and play the difference if you can get Skippy and Rodon to move in the other direction? So not good news if the price tag is twice as much as I thought it was yesterday. The next story is Nikola Milenkovic. This one's coming out of the aggregators, a few of them. TBR Football, I think, was the one I read, but I think it's on 2 or 3 different websites. So take this one with a massive pinch of salt. Also take it with an even bigger slice, because obviously he is Serbian, and the Euros, the game last night, blah, 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 blah. Does it, you know, it's all just very coincidentally convenient to put out a story. But for what it's worth, Tottenham were linked with Milenkovic under Conte a couple of years ago. I did loads of videos on him. I thought he really suited Tottenham for the Conte system. He's amazing in the air. He's a rock solid kind of bulldozer of a centre half. Very impressive at Fiorentina. I really like him, but I'm not convinced by the fit for this particular system and model. If you look at his stats, I'll throw them on the screen. And if you go and check him out, you'll see a player that's brilliant as a typical old school defender, doing what he does. And he's not afraid to he's pretty good with through balls and long balls and that sort of stuff, and can transition quickly. But in terms of like on the ball, running with the ball, carrying the ball out, that sort of thing, the stats and my memory of watching him closely last year or whenever it was when I was reviewing him didn't really suit or didn't suggest that he would suit that sort of system. Anyway, for what it's worth, the story says that Forest, West Ham, Fulham, Villa, etc., Newcastle, Tottenham, we're all interested in the 26-year-old. And some people are going as far as to saying that maybe he would be considered the replacement for Tottenham if Romero was to leave and go to Real Madrid. And whilst I really do like Milenkovic, I think he is a really good player. But again, that can't be the replacement for Romero, no chance. And I don't expect Romero to lead the club this year anyway. Last couple of stories, guys, for you. As I say, short one today. Ferran Torres, apparently after all that talk yesterday about him wanting, or him being the sacrificial lamb at Barcelona to make room for João Cancelo to stay at Barcelona, they have to move someone on, and it was going to be Torres. Well, apparently Ferran Torres has said that he wants to stay and is not interested in going back to the Premier League. And of course, he doesn't have to, right? Just because a club has identified you as the person that has to make room, the player can say, no, I'm under contract, I don't want to go, I'm happy where I am. It takes 3 parties to agree a deal, buyer, seller, and the player. How about this one? I've been talking all week about this kind of concern that I have around how it is that European teams seem to always cry pauper when it comes to buying players from the Premier League, yet expect Premier League players to pay 200% of whatever the market value is for the player if it's going in the other direction. I'm not sure if Turkey is actually Europe or Eurasia or Asia. I don't know where the boundary is, but Fenerbahce apparently have officially or unofficially, but it's there apparently, an £8 million offer for Piere Emile Hojbjerg under Jose Mourinho. £8 million. Yesterday's video we were talking about 30 million and the drip down to 25, then to 20, and then eventually we would accept 15. And I was talking about this litmus test going, this is a sign, or at least Tottenham are looking and waiting for signs to see what is the willingness of the European market, the second tier market, to participate, and at what sort of price points, because what you can gather from that is obviously how you can structure your opening bids for players that you might be looking for from the same or similar countries. And we thought that £15 million for Hojbjerg was bad enough, at half the price of what we were expecting last summer, even though he has only got a year left on his contract now, and he had two at the time. But £8 million from Fenerbahce, it's been rejected apparently out of hand. It's insulting for a player of Hojbjerg's level. I doubt, again, like he'd want to go to Turkey anyway, but God help us if that is the sort of price point that we're working with all summer. And if there is an approach taken by Tottenham here to sort of sell before we buy, we could be waiting a long time for some action. One story that came out about Tammy Abraham, a lot of back and forth in the comment section. A lot of people weren't interested. A lot of people thought, I can see the value, blah, blah, blah. Paul O'Keefe has come out and said that Tottenham insiders that he knows literally laughed out loud at the suggestion that Tottenham would sign Tammy Abraham. I haven't seen Paul O'Keefe's tweet about this, but I've seen an article that is reporting on the tweet. So I might have paraphrased it wrong, but yeah, according to that story, Paul O'Keefe has said that people at Tottenham went, what? No, not Tammy. The last bit of news for you, just to round off a really cheery 12-minute video for you guys, is that according to reports, there has been absolutely zero interest, zilch, not a single phone call or an email or a fax or whatever they do these days, inquiring in Serge Reguilon or Bryan Hill. Not one. These guys aren't bad players. Serge Reguilon did very well at United, was respected by the United fans for his effort on loan, did very well at Brentford, but apparently nothing has happened yet. And no phone calls or even inquiries. And Bryan Hill the same. What worries me a little bit is, I know people are saying the Euros are on, and I know that the Copa America are on, and apparently there's rules in place now that says that during the tournament, no players can actually leave their clubs to go and do trades or do medicals, all of that stuff. And I totally understand that, but that doesn't mean in reality that the deals are not being discussed, considered, negotiated, engaged with third parties, intermediaries, doing all of the work on paper, in principle, phone calls being had. Can we make it done? Yes, okay, let's formalise it once we are allowed to, but the work is, the people are not just on holiday, the agents are not just on holiday during this period, they're still doing their work. And the fact that, if true, that no one has even bothered to even inquire about these two players is pretty concerning. Couple that with the idea that Hojbjerg's only valued at 8 million in Fenerbahce's eyes, or at least as a starting bid. The idea that Lo Celso is also going to be getting sort of 10 to 12 million. The fact that AC Milan, one of the wealthier clubs in Italy, who are tier A kind of financially in that department, are refusing to budge on 16 or 17 million euros for Emerson Royal. It's all a little bit frustrating. Or am I overthinking it again because I'm in a bit of a bad mood? Possibly, probably. But for me, what I will say is the Euros are going on. Nothing's going to obviously happen. There'll be no formalised transfers to or from Tottenham for any players that are participating in those tournaments during the tournament specifically, but the players that are not participating in the tournaments, of which there are many more than those that are, can obviously move hands. And as I say, when you wake up and you stub your toe and you have a bad email and a bad text and everything's looking, your stock portfolio's down, when everything's looking just like it's a terrible start to the day and you've got a headache and you're a bit moody and you want to go to Tottenham News and see something bright and exciting, and the best you can come up with is a story that James Maddison might be leaving because Eze's coming in, that Vanderson is twice as much as he was yesterday, that Milenkovic is Romero's replacement at Tottenham. I mean, TBR Football couldn't even come up with something unique. They thought, England are playing Serbia last night. That'll do for a story. Ferran Torres wants to stay. Turkey want Hojbjerg for 8 million. Not even worth getting out of bed to answer that email. And Serge Reguilon and Bryan Hill couldn't even buy a text of inquiry if you asked them to. So it's not a great day's set of news, but anyway, we're going to try and have a better afternoon. I hope you all have a wonderful time. I'll speak to you later, guys. Take it easy. See you soon. Bye.